Good morning, and welcome to what I hope will be a very realism-focused long play of Thornton Farm here in Farming Simulator 15. Farming Simulator 17 is just around the corner, about to come out here in a couple days, and a lot of my favorite Farming Simulator YouTubers are really excited about it. I'm with them on that 100%. I have my pre-order in. I'm looking forward to sitting down and spending some time with the new game as soon as it comes out, and I think it'll end up being a really great experience. However, a lot of my favorite Farming Simulator YouTubers have been posting kind of final videos for Farming Simulator 15 as they're getting ready for the new version. Things like a fond farewell to Farming Simulator 15 or final harvest. And I am not quite with them on that part of it 100% yet. Farming Simulator tends to be a fairly bare bones experience out of the box for me. For me, it's the modding community that really makes it great, that makes the game really robust and gives it a tremendously long lifespan. And as this new game comes out, as Farming Simulator 17 gets released here, I think it's going to take, just like it did with 15, I think it's going to take modders some time to get up to speed and to get some of the mods that we take for granted out. Some of the mods that, some really wonderful quality of life mods that a lot of us consider to be must-have mods. And I think completely abandoning Farming Simulator 15 as soon as the new game comes out is a little bit hasty. I think there's still a lot that I want to do with the old game, and I'm going to do it here with you. Hopefully you'll join me. So, rather than just standing around and lecturing you all day, let's get moving. What I'd like to do today is give you a very brief tour of our yard here. If you watch pretty much anybody's YouTube videos of Farming Simulator 15, it's likely that you've seen Thornton Farm before. It's a very popular map that pretty much everybody tends to spend at least a little time on at some point because it's such a good map. Oxygen David makes consistently awesome maps, and Sandy Bay is my all-time favorite, but this one is, as I spend more time on it, Thornton Farm is definitely giving Sandy Bay a run for its money in my book. But you're probably familiar with this map, like I said, if you watch anybody else's Farming Simulator YouTube videos, so I don't want to spend too much time with the tour. But I'll show off a little bit of our equipment here. We're using a Dominator harvester here, the 218, my favorite of a handful of like pretty solid class harvester mods. Over here we've got our Lemkin reskin of a sprayer here, a tank to refill it. We've got our lime here, and lime is something we're going to be using a lot, and well, if you've been paying close attention, you can see that I do have Soilmod enabled on this map, and Soilmod is going to play a huge part of what we're setting out to do on this map as well. Lime kind of figures into that, managing the pH of the soil. What I wanted to do with this map is something I haven't tried before, but something I've been kind of daydreaming about for a long time. And that is, rather than jumping around and sort of handling fields kind of piecemeal, Farming Simulator is very kind of casual friendly, and kind of, depending on how you set your settings, out of the box, you can kind of, do it how you want to. You can jump around, tend to a field that strikes your fancy, ignore other fields for a while, then jump over and handle those fields. You can be planting crops over here while you're harvesting crops over there, and it can all be a lot of fun, and that's great. But what I've really wanted to do for a long time is tackle a farm in kind of a more cohesive way. I'd like to run Thornton Farm here as one big farm, and I'd like to take it through the entire process of tending to the soil, planting, tending to crops, harvesting, in kind of a unified way, going through a season from beginning to end, and having all of the fields be a part of that process. So that's what we're going to be doing on this map, sort of taking the whole farm through the process in kind of a realistic timeline. Soilmod's helping us with that by slowing down growth cycles quite a bit. I want to keep us moving here, so I'll tell you a little bit more about how we're going to be working the timeline here as we go on here. But let me show you a little bit more equipment. Got a couple cultivators or seeder, a couple tippers here, One mostly for grain, one mostly for silage. I've got our a little bit out of place fertilizer spreader here. I'll tell you a little bit more about that when we get around to putting. Actually, we'll use that for spreading lime. And once we get that out in the field, I'll tell you a little bit more about why we're using that. We don't have much grain in our storage right now. We've sold off pretty much everything that we started out with here on this new map to fund our equipment purchases and livestock purchases. We don't have much grain in storage at all right now. What I want to do is get us around the corner here to where our first tractor awaits. We're going to be using this little Massey, this little 698, as our kind of farmyard utility tractor. We're going to be hauling some equipment around with it and doing all of our front loading and bale handling with it. So you're going to be seeing this tractor a lot. It's one of my favorites. We also have a little tinier farm all in the barn there in the workshop. It's kind of busted at the moment. PTO is non-functional. And we're going to leave it that way for now, and we're only going to be using the farm all just for when we need a little bit of an extra hand hauling around bale trailers. The Massey is going to be our main utility tractor here on Thornton Farm. So we'll get it started up and spin it around here. Behind us here is one of our larger grain fields. We're going to go this way here, around across the street to the other half of our farmyard. And I'm going to show you a few more pieces of equipment. Then we're going to head out to the field where one of our bigger tractors is waiting for us. Got our chickens here around the corner there. Get out here for a second. This map does have water mods, so we do have to feed and water our chickens if we want them to produce for us. I believe I have 24 hens right now, 24. I don't know why, but I tend to buy livestock in dozens. So right now we have, I believe, like 36 sheep and 24 chicken, and I believe 48 dairy cattle at the moment. Got a little ROS box here with some bagged wheat in it that we're going to be using to feed our chickens as needed, so we don't have to haul a tipper all the way over here. We'll leave the chickens behind for now. They'll sort of tend to themselves for the time being. And we are going to head over here to the other half of the yard. Got grain storage for sunflower and rye and oats, the multi-fruit that are available on this map. We're not going to be dealing with sunflower this first planting season, but we will be doing some rye and oats, so stay tuned for that. I've done a little bit with multi-fruit stuff in the past on other maps, but not a lot, so I'm looking forward to spending some more time with that. Here in this building here, this is kind of our tractor storage and also storage for a couple of other pieces of equipment that I haven't quite figured out where to put yet. Got our straw blower over here and our baler. I haven't done square baling much in a long time. I usually do round baling. I like it better. It's more fun. I am using Bale Extension on this map, so that makes baling a little bit more realistic, a little bit more complicated in a good way. But I knew I was going to be baling a lot of straw here at straw and hay here at the start of this map, and I figured, shake it up a little bit and use a square baler. There are, even though I've started us out with a fair bit of just kind of basic equipment so that we can do all the work we need to, there is a lot of equipment on my wish list, and getting probably a McHale like Fusion 3 is definitely up there. I want to get a round baler as well, so we can be a little bit more versatile, and so that we can do some silage baling. Some silage wrapping, I should say. We've got one of our two large tractors over here, and it's an Arion, class Arion. I like there are some really great class tractor mods, some really well polished mods, and I like using them. You know, isn't my favorite brand of tractor or anything, but it fits well on this map since one of the main equipment dealers on this map is a class dealer. Makes sense that we'd have a couple class tractors since we live just across the street from them. So the Arion's one, and we have a larger Axion out in the field, and that's what we're going to be using for some mowing a little bit later. But we'll move on here, close this door, And jump back into the Massey. Finish up this little tour here. Got our cows in here. Like I said, I think we have 48 cows at the moment. I did some counting and sort of figuring out how many heads of dairy cows, how many dairy cows you would realistically have on a map like this, and it seems like you're kind of pushing it by the time you get up to 60. It seems like a kind of a setup like this might have 50, 55 cows maybe. So we're starting with 48. We may add a few more to it over time, but I really like to stay within the realistic constraints of what a farm could really have and tend to. So I'm not going to be buying 100 cows or a couple hundred cows, even though the money would certainly help us. We're going to be sticking with a realistic number, and I think 48 is a good number of cows to start with. We do need them to produce milk, though, so we can make some money to cover our daily costs. We're heading into our most expensive season right now. We're going to be buying a lot of fertilizer. It's going to put us into the red. And some milk would really help us out with that. But I have no hay for the cows at the moment. We need to make some hay. They are subsisting purely on grass out in the field right now, and that means they're not going to be making as much milk. I do have some straw bedding laid down for them. They do have water out there, but we need to get them some hay as soon as possible. So that's what we're going to be working on in the very near future. Got our milk tanker there. Our silage bunkers here are empty. Hopefully that won't be the case for long. Over here is a barn of miscellaneous equipment. Got a Claas reskinned windrower here, and our tedder, and a little John Deere forager that I hope to get rid of in the near future as soon as we can afford a proper forage harvester. I'd like to get a Jaguar out in the fields next season when we can afford it. But when we're picking up chaff out of the grass fields, we're going to be using the John Deere this time around. Using Follow Me to have a tipper alongside us or behind us. We've got this kipper here. That's just our bale trailer. When we're hauling small quantities of bales around, we'll front load them into that tractor or this wagon here, which is a mod I haven't used before, except for playing around with it a little on this map. But I like it. It's cool. And the big Marshall bale trailer, auto-loading bale trailer that everybody's seen a million times. And that's for, we're going to be doing a lot of manual bale handling, but I do have, at some point I hit the wall and have a limit to how much of that I can handle, so I may, probably mostly off camera, but if I need to finish up some bale handling and I'm super sick of bale handling, I may use the auto-loading function occasionally, hopefully not too often. Over here, last real thing to show you here on the farm is how much straw we have here from our initial harvest. One thing I wanted to do, I already told you a little bit about how I want to handle this farm sort of holistically and handle all the fields simultaneously and sort of go through an entire season of planting and harvesting, sort of doing everything all at once on the farm. And one thing that meant is that I needed to kind of clean house when I started the map. So what I did when I first started, I've gone through about a day's worth of work here in the map already. I harvested all of the harvestable crops. Anything that wasn't ready to harvest, I plowed under, got rid of. With Soilmod on, that'll help add some nutrients to the soil, which is nice. But this is the straw that I got from our barley and wheat harvests from just starting the map and cleaning house. And we're going to see how well that gets us through this season. I think it's more than enough. I think we could probably get through an entire season keeping just the cows bedded with about half this, maybe even less. But I haven't taken the time to do the math super precisely. So we're just going to keep the straw around and see how much we go through this season, and that'll inform how much I keep around next season. And then we'll sell off our surplus when I know that there's a surplus. Also, one thing about this map, actually, let me take you over there now. This just, the way we were heading here. Let's see, got a cow field back there. A pretty nice, nice slurry pit. This is the manure here, manure storage, and just around there. Oh, where's the slurry pit? getting turned around here. Is it over here? Yeah, here it is. Our slurry pit that will start filling up soon. I think it's really well done. Both Oxygen David and Tom X55 both do some pretty nice slurry pit setups on their maps. I think that's going to be fun to use once we actually get some slurry in there. But what I want to do now is I want to take you around to the last little bit of our main farmyard here, and it's just across the, it's just down the street a little bit. It's an area of the map that I think is has a little less care given to it than this main part of the farm, which I think has a lot of character. Once we get over to this third and final kind of part of the farm, I think it gets a little bit more generic looking, but it's still serviceable. It's fine. We're just going to take a left here. And just down the street, over here, is the last final third of our farm, and that's where the pigs and beef happen. Oops. And also where our potato storage is. So we've got our big barn here for pigs and a big barn here for beef. Wood chip storage, this kind of stuff. It's a lot of miscellaneous stuff happening over here. At one point, from what I've seen in other people's videos, at one point there was a potato washer built into this map, and I think it was right here, but in the final release and the current version, it's not there, and there's some additional, it's kind of some dirt piles, some crates in its place. So I don't know if there was a bug with it and Oxygen David just decided to remove it or what, but at some point we may place a potato washer down here once we get into root crop farming, which we're not doing any of this season. And if you're keeping a close eye out as I'm driving around these barns, you'll notice that I don't have any pigs or beef either. I am waiting until we get through our first season before we start doing pig and beef farming. For the first season, we're just going to stick with sheep and cows and chickens and grains. Okay, so we will leave the final part and largely ignored for now part of our farm behind and head out to the field. I'm really looking forward to taking our profit from this season's cereal harvest and whatever we make from selling excess bales and whatever we can make from our livestock, and putting that profit into expanding our operations next season. And that definitely means getting our pig farming operation and our beef farming operation up to speed and doing some root crop farming. No root crops this season though. Some of that equipment is just a little above our budget this time around. So we're going to go down to the southwest of the map here, because we need to mow some grass. I haven't cut any grass on this map yet, and we need to get some hay for our livestock and also get some silage. So we'll go to field 1 here. Gotta start somewhere, might as well start with 1. And let's see, where should I park? Actually, I guess I'm gonna park across the street here. A little precarious, but hopefully that will not fall into the ditch there. And we've made it to where we have our farm's largest tractor waiting. I usually, I'm a huge fan of like small English farming maps. I like small tractors. I like old tractors. And I don't usually use a tractor that's as big as this Axion. I think the Axion is, 250 horsepower. It's really rare for me to use a 264 horsepower using the smaller of the two Axions. Definitely don't need something that's 400 horsepower. That's crazy. I usually don't use a tractor this big. It's kind of rare for me to use a tractor that's above, say, 150 horsepower or so. That's probably why I do a lot of round baling instead of square baling, because the balers are a little bit smaller. But this time around, we're going to shake things up a little bit. I can't remember the last time I've used a mowing setup as tremendous as this either. You know, I really like using the really popular John Deere Moco, towing that around, or using just like a single bladed, single sided butterfly mower. But we've got a pretty massive mowing setup, which is probably good because we have a lot of grass to mow on this field, or on this map. So we don't want to hit the gate here. In fact, I should probably close the gate. Just walk through the tractor here. Don't mind me. There we go. Don't. I was afraid of that. God damn it. Come back. Come back. I am going to edit that out so hard. What an idiot. Alright, so we're going to hop in and let's see, all our PTOs are connected here. Put the mowers down and let's get mowing. I know a lot of farming simulator video watchers have really strong preferences about playing in third player or first player, and I should tell you up front here, I tend to do quite a bit of both. If I'm working an implement that's a real pain to see like how far over it is, if I'm having a hard time doing rows, I tend to play in third person just to make it a little bit easier. But whenever it's convenient, whenever it doesn't make my my farming a lot obviously worse, I do play in first person. Let me do one time around here because I'm worried about this. I want to get close to this fence without hitting too many fence posts here, and then we'll go to first person. But I just wanted to tell you that I do quite a bit of both. So hopefully you will tolerate that. If you have one strong preference or another, hopefully we'll do enough first person and enough third person that it will satisfy you. This is a very hilly field, and I am curious how a person would actually mow this field, this kind of steep hill in real life. What would be the way that would screw up your tractor and mowers the least? So I guess I should also clarify, if it's not super obvious, I am not a farmer and I don't live on a farm. I've spent probably 2 weeks of my whole life on a farm, on various farms, staying with family or friend or somebody. I've driven a tractor probably twice in my life. I'm from the Midwestern United States, so they're definitely around, but it's not in my blood. So most of what I've learned about farming and what makes for realistic farming in a simulator from the farming simulator community, from other people trying to be realistic in their farming sim attempts. So that means I know some things. I've definitely learned a lot while watching others strive for a realistic farming simulator experience. And there's also a whole lot that I don't know. So I'm probably going to do a ton of stuff less realistically than I could, and I always appreciate feedback about that. And if you see me doing something just crazy that somebody would not do in real life, you should tell me, and I'm gonna take a good look at it and see if we can do it better and do it more realistically. Because I like learning about farming, and I like trying to do it right. In the farming simulator like YouTubing community, there tends to be a lot of comments about people's favorite equipment. I'm probably a little less inclined to listen to that. Hey, sell that class tractor, buy a John Deere. Hey, sell that John Deere, buy a New Holland. That kind of stuff seems to be like 80% of comments for farming simulator videos. Chances are I'm not going to listen to that feedback, but I do appreciate it, I guess. I appreciate that you cared enough to leave a comment, but I definitely will listen to thoughts about how farming would actually be done in real life and how I could do it better here inside the simulator. Oh my goodness, somebody has already left a comment. I know by now I know that somebody left a comment 5 seconds after I started driving this Claas tractor that I did not pull down the wheel like I should have. I've been driving like a moron. Would the tractor even drive with the wheel up like that? I don't know. I just forgot to bring it down with the IC. Well, there's the first thing you can yell at me about, doing things the right way. Being unrealistic. Sorry about that, everybody. I can't remember the last time I forgot to pull down the wheel properly. I often forget to, like, open the door, using IC before I jump out, because I don't care so much about that, but I'm usually pretty good about the wheel. This modded Claas tractor has some pretty cool in-cabin equipment. None of it I'd really be using for a task like this. Like, it has like kind of a GPS screen and stuff. I'll try to remember to turn that on when we're actually using GPS out in the field, doing cultivating or planting or whatever. But I can't see how I'd really use it in a field like this where I'm kind of just circling around manually cutting grass. So by the time we get through all of our grass fields, there are 6, 9, 12, maybe 15-ish grass fields. I did a quick count here, so I can still pay attention to my driving. And it's going to take a while to get through them all. And what I'd like to do with all of that grass that we're going to be taking in all at once is I'll probably make half of it-ish, maybe a little more than half, into square hay bales. Start stacking them up alongside the straw bales back on the farm. I don't think this tree has collision, but that doesn't mean I won't try to avoid it. And then the other half, as long as if it looks like we're getting a healthy stack of hay bales, hopefully we can fill up the other half of that awning that I have the other straw bales under. Hopefully we can get a ton of hay bales under there, just so we know that we'll have enough for the whole coming season. But if it looks like we're getting a good surplus going, then I'll switch over and put the rest in a silage clamp, and we'll make silage out of it. We need silage for the animals, and if we have, I doubt we'll have a ton left over the season, but if we do, we can always sell it for some extra income. In Farming Simulator, I'm not a huge BGA guy. There are a lot of tedious jobs in Farming Simulator that I find fun, like mowing grass fields, that kind of stuff. Baling, I love baling, bale handling. But taking tipper load after tipper load of silage to the BGA and scooping it in, or even just putting on a conveyor, that's not super fun for me. So I tend to not do a ton of BGA work. BGA silage selling on my maps. But sometimes you just need some extra money, so we'll see how it goes. With this huge mower deck, man, this thing is big. It's not taking us too much time to get through this field, and I think that this is our maybe not quite our largest grass field, but it's definitely one of like 3 big ones. So I feel like all of our other grass mowing is going to go fairly quickly as well. I'm going to try really hard to strike a good balance with this series, and I mean, obviously I don't want to give you 50 episodes of just mowing grass. I want to move things along so you can see some of the all of the interesting parts of running this farm. But I don't just want to jump too quickly through the process either. So I'm going to try to find a good balance between what I show you and what I either time lapse or just do off camera and don't show you. And that's another thing I'm definitely open to feedback on. If you want to see more of a thing, let me know. If you want to see less of a thing, let me know, and I will take your feedback under advisement. This is my first farming simulator video series, so I definitely want to do a good job, but I definitely don't have a ton of experience like some of the other popular farming simulator YouTubers out there. But I do watch enough of their videos that hopefully I can emulate some of the things that people like about their farming styles. Oh, so I probably should tell you a little bit about, since we have a few minutes here, before we're done with this field, I should tell you a little bit about the time scale on this map and how we have things set up through Soilmod. So I want time to progress fairly slowly because we have a lot of work to do. In vanilla farming simulator, depending on how you have your time settings, or your what is it called? Your time scale set. And your, I was just there, your plant growth setting set. You could have plants going through a growth cycle like once a day or multiple times a day. I think if you set it at its fastest setting, you could get a crop from seed to harvest in a single in-game day. And that's something we definitely don't want on this map, because with 30 some odd fields to get through, we'd never get to them all. And with Soilmod on, you can't turn withering off, so we would lose the vast majority of our crop if we had things going that quickly. With Soilmod, it changes the way the crops grow. They grow in a different kind of growth cycle that Soilmod makes happen in-game. And by default, if you install Soilmod, you get one growth cycle per day, and it happens at midnight. Every time the clock strikes midnight, your crops will advance one growth cycle. So you'll go from seeds to little sprouts in the field onto the next growth cycle the next time the clock hits midnight, and then after 4 growth cycles, you'll have a crop that's ready to harvest. So that would take 4 in-game days. But Soilmod is also pretty customizable with that too. And what I've done is gone into the settings and I've set it up so that a growth cycle happens once every 4 days. Every 4th time the clock strikes midnight, we'll get a growth cycle. And I really like that timeline for a number of reasons. First of all, just so you know, if you're not familiar with Soilmod, if you look up at the upper right of the screen, there's a really tiny number in the upper right corner, just above like how much money we have. And the number says 3 right now. And that's because I've already spent 1 in-game day harvesting those fields, that stuff I talked about earlier, sort of getting this map ready to go for this playthrough. We're on our 2nd day in game. So that number says 3 because it's a countdown until the next growth cycle. So this time tomorrow morning, it's 9 in the morning here in game right now. When it's 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, that number up there in the corner will say 2. And then the next day it'll say 1. And then when it says 1, the next time the clock hits midnight, we're going to have a massive growth cycle where everything on the map advances 1 growth cycle at the same time. So I really like the 4-day growth cycle in Soilmod, especially if I have a lot to do, because it feels realistic to me. If you have a 4-day growth cycle in Soilmod, that means that if a crop in the real world, if a crop takes 4 months to grow, that's 1 growth cycle per month. If you have it 4 in-game days per growth cycle, it's kind of like every in-game day is 1 week of real-world growth. I am probably the only person that cares about that, but it's very cool to me to kind of divide up growth cycles that way and to set the timeline that way in Farming Simulator. I'm probably just going to put some music here and do a time lapse so you don't have to listen to that, because man, that is some boring stuff to explain and some complicated stuff to explain. But the thing you need to know is that every 4 days a growth cycle is going to hit. So every time we have work to do, every time we need to spread lime on all our fields, or every time it's time to plant all our fields, we need to get that work done in 4 days, or else that next growth cycle is going to hit, and we're going to end up not having our fields be in the same place at the same time. So one thing I'm ignoring with the way I've set this up, kind of realism-wise, is that obviously not all crops in the real world get planted at the same times. Different crops happen in different seasons. And that's something that's one sacrifice of realism that I'm making to sort of make this all work. to keep myself sane, and to keep myself having fun playing the game rather than like stressing about spreadsheets and kind of keeping notes about a million things, as we're just doing all of our planting at the same time, all of our harvesting at the same time. It's kind of realistic in one way and a little bit less realistic in another, but I think it's a good compromise for some interesting kind of realistic gameplay without making it too crazy complicated. But I don't know, maybe once we get through this first season, maybe I'll find that it's that would be doable to make it more complicated and do planting at different times during our make-believe year here on Thornton Farm. So that whole growth cycle thing, we currently have 3 days left until our next growth cycle. And what I want to do during those 3 days is get all of our grass mowed and tedded into hay and baled or whatever we're going to do with the grass. I want to get these fields cleared. And then I want to put lime, a layer of lime, on every field we own, on all of our grass fields and all of our normal fields, to give the pH a little boost, so that the pH is right where we need it come next harvest. We need to boost it a little bit because the plants that we're going to be planting in the near future are going to make our soil slightly more acidic. We want to kind of counteract that before it happens. And then before this next growth cycle, I also want to put down a layer of fertilizer. We're going to end up putting one application of a nitrogen fertilizer and then another application of phosphorus and potassium fertilizer down, our N fertilizer and our PK fertilizer. But you can't put down both of those during the same growth cycle. If you put down one type of fertilizer and then put down another type of fertilizer, just the way Soilmod is set up, it'll cancel out the first one. So we need to put down a layer of fertilizer, wait for a growth cycle to hit, then we can put down our other layer. There is an NPK fertilizer. If you know anything about Soilmod, you already know this. So I'm sorry if I'm saying really obvious things. But there is a combination NPK fertilizer that will give the soil all three nutrients at the same time, but it's not as potent. And I found that it's just as easy. I'm gonna have to put two applications down either way, either two applications of NPK or one application of N and then another application of PK. So I'm just gonna do that latter option. Just put the nitrogen down first and then put the PK fertilizer down next growth cycle. And then so this growth cycle we're gonna lime and fertilize. Next growth cycle we're gonna fertilize again and then also plant. Somewhere in there we need to cultivate too. We're probably going to cultivate a few of the fields that need cultivation this growth cycle. Hopefully we can get it all done in 3 days. In-game time is passing at real time, so that's helpful. It gives us a lot of time to do what we need to do. I've been in third-person camera for quite a while now. Sometimes I lose track of that, so if you're a big first-person camera fan, sorry if I'm driving you nuts there. So in 3 days, our next growth cycle will hit, and then we'll have 4 days to do that other fertilizer application and planting. So in 7 days in game here, we're going to have seeds in the ground. And then another 4 days after that, we're going to have the start of plants growing in our fields. Once we get the plants sprouting out there in the field, we'll put down some herbicide and see how it goes. Hopefully, if I've planned well, the soil will be in good condition throughout their entire growth, and it'll provide us with a really good harvest. One of the things that we'll have to keep an eye on later on is with Soilmod also is moisture. And that one's a little trickier to predict because there is a weather forecast in the game, but it's not super reliable. It does tend to reset when you reload the game sometimes, from what I've noticed. So we might end up with a surprise rainy day at some point that I wasn't planning on, and that can make the soil wetter than I'd like. Excuse me. Or we could end up with the soil getting drier than I'd like, and we may have to go out there and do some irrigation if the soil gets too dry over the course of the entire growing season. We'll see. That is all quite a ways in our future. We have a lot of work to do before we get there. So I'm just zigzagging around here, but I am actually done with this field. We're going to let this grass sit out for a while. We don't want to let it sit out for too long. In Soilmod, I believe grass slowly kind of ticks away as time goes on. But in the real world, we would try to, or we would let this grass dry for a little bit before we tedded it into hay. That's not an instantaneous process, so I think I'm going to leave all the grass, or get all the grass mowed at least. Maybe wait a day or two here, and then come around and ted it and do what we need to do with it. Kind of a compromise for realism, I guess you could call it. But we're done with this field, so we need to take our tractor to the next field. But that's going to be all for this episode, I think. It's getting a little bit long here. Let me, first of all, put up the steering wheel, which I didn't do before I got out, so surely infuriating some of the tractor realism fans out there. It would have been hard to get out of my seat with the wheel pulled down like that. But we've got our mower up, and we're ready to move on to the next field. So I'm going to move on to field 2, and I'm not sure exactly how much I'll do before the next time I see you, but I hope to see you again. I hope you enjoyed a little bit of what I've laid out here for the plan for this experience here on Thornton Farm, and I hope you'll stick with me, and we'll have some fun together. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Obviously, do the YouTube things if you liked what you saw, and like and subscribe and all that. And if you do, it's greatly appreciated. So, see you next time.